Welcome to another episode of the Bottom Line Podcast, where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line. Today's guest, I've been having, conversations with people along the lines of this. It can get confusing because we're going through a pandemic and we're going through a lot of what seems to be a downturn. And there are questions that need to be answered that are going unanswered. And it's best to speak to an expert when you find yourself confused and you want to make necessary adjustments and changes to improve your life and to become pandemic proof, right? So this is really the reason why I asked my guest to come on. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Mr. Igor Iggy Lipkin of Moshes law firm, law offices of Yuriy Moshes.
How yes, sir. Doing? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. And yes, my name is Igor Lipkin. I am the Director of Business Development for the law office of Yuriy Moshes. We are licensed in New York and New Jersey. We have 3 offices, one in Jersey, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, mainly in real estate transaction, real estate dealings. I am a mortgage expert for the last 17 years. So my background really shines at the law office. And we can help a lot of clients get into homes and sell their properties throughout the process. Okay. Yep. And Jack, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate being on the podcast with you.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Like I said, it's a tough time for a lot of people, right? And we're living in uncertain times where questions are. Some people are just not sure what kind of questions to ask, right? And they're kind of just stuck back against the wall. Right. So just so we can get a little bit more, about you, Igor, we were talking last week and you were telling me about, how you've been getting through this pandemic. How have you been getting through? Share with the people a little bit of how you've been able to pivot.
Sure. I mean, look, this is, unmarked territories. We never seen this coming. Always predicted that market has to correct itself somehow. But this is just absolute bananas in the sense where nobody predicted, so many deaths and nobody's prepared for this, pandemic. The way we've been able to do what we do is, luckily, we went remote. We went on the cloud at the law office. We changed our servers around. We let people work from home. So we continuously working and underwriting and processing. Electronic signatures is a huge thing that has been going on for a couple of years now already, and it's been recognized by different attorneys and in the mortgage industry as well. And of course, Zoom meetings and any online sources that we can do, educate our referral partners, continuously representing sellers and buyers through this pandemic and transaction. People still want to sell, people still want to buy. We have a huge pipeline of transactions that had to close. So there was a lot of electronic signatures. There was a lot of back and forth, and coordinating is a big obstacle these days. But I feel like once you have a great team behind you,
sure,
and that's kind of where we come in at the Moshes law firm. It's Yuriy Moshes. We have another attorney, 2 other attorneys. We have 8 paralegals, and we come as a team to work together to make sure every transaction comes to the closing table one way or another.
Outstanding.
Of course, we had a few fallouts because of the pandemic, people losing their jobs, people getting furloughed. Unemployment is a big problem. And let's face it, if you're not working, you can't get a mortgage, you can buy a house. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the downside of the pandemic in the real estate world, where the sellers are losing contracts, the buyers are renegotiating the prices. So there's leverage on both ends.
Yep.
But with the rates being the way they are, it's only a matter of time before the market is picking up again. And as I speak to a lot of realtors on a daily basis, and maybe Jacques, you can attest to this, the market has picked up in the last week, I would say a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. What I'm thinking about also is like this state of mind that we're in, man. I mean, we kind of opened it up on, the way that it is kind of a fact, and we got to bring attention to that. But what I see you doing on Facebook, I think you keep your head, you're pretty level headed. You don't seem affected by it in a negative way. I see you out there riding your bike. You've been bike riding for a while now, it looks like, right? Like that seems to keep you going, right? How's that going?
Yeah, I mean,
how'd you pick that up?
If you could will it, you could achieve it, as they say, right?
Love it.
So I started biking when I injured my knee, and I had an ACL surgery. And one of the rehabs was bicycling.
Okay.
Joined a few different clubs to bike around the neighborhood, and it turned into a 5 mile, 10 mile, 20 mile. I've done 50, 75, almost 100 mile tours.
Wow.
You know, throughout the states. And now on a daily basis, we just have like a crew of people, and all welcome to join. That we just ride, just the breeze of the air, and you just kind of lose yourself in the mindset. And there's nothing else you could do working out wise, so you got to keep yourself afloat. And
Yeah.
biking is
Yeah.
my remedy. It's
There it
my
is.
peacefulness.
There it is. Yeah, you got to find like a way for you to, redirect some of this negativity, right? Some of this uncertainty. You got to get to a good mental space for you to be able to do what you're doing. Because I'm sure you're dealing with people every day. You're having to explain things and educate people, right? And you're carrying on a lot of that stress. So I see you doing the bike riding, and I see, you're not just by yourself. You have a strong support system around you, people who share the same goals, it looks like, right? Tell me a little
Yeah,
bit about that.
we have a few people that join us, and again, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a great biker, or it could be your first time. We just like to ride. Honestly, the truth is, I enjoy biking.
Yeah.
To do 20, 25 miles, people are astonished, and doing 30 miles, 35 miles, like wow, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's no
But
joke.
once you're into it and the stamina keeps going, and you just clear your mind, you forget about what state of mind, with the pandemic that's going on, you kind of let yourself loose. And, in the morning, you clear your head, whatever you decide to do, if it's biking or yoga or anything of those sorts. And I've seen a lot in the Far Rockaways, they do a lot of yoga, and they do a lot
Right.
of stretching, they do a lot of exercising outside. I think that's the new norm now.
Yeah. Try to be outdoors as much as possible. I think the
Um,
conversation needs to be a little bit that, what can we do to boost our immune systems during these times too, so we could be less susceptible to contracting this virus, right? It looks like you have a solid relationship or a solid support system around you. Tell me a little bit about some of the relationships, the guys that you go biking with. How did you meet those guys? How'd you, create that relationship? And how do you guys always seem to be together in all those Facebook pictures? Like, is that something, because people don't commit. There's a lack of commitment when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, like I said, if you could will it, you could achieve it. It started with a buddy of mine in a couple blocks away. Our daughters go to the same daycare, and I know actually it's funny because I live in the Mo Basin area, and I recently moved there about 3 4 years ago. I used to live in Midwood area and just jumped around between Sheepshead Bay and whatnot. Our office is actually located in Brighton, but a lot of the guys that I'm biking with now, I kind of knew them from high school.
Gotcha.
And then
Okay.
fast forward 10, 15 years later, we live in the same neighborhood. So,
Right.
Facebook, social media really got the word out, and people just texted me or messaged me and said, hey, when's the next ride? I'd love to join. So we just kind of started like a WhatsApp group,
Nice.
and, whoever wants to go in the evening or in the morning, just shoot it out there, and whoever joins, and
Nice.
again, you kind of, it's kind of motivational for each other, and it motivates, other people to join in. And if it's your first time or if you love to ride, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I think that's so hard to get, man. Once you actually get it, it's so hard to keep it, that support system, that
Yeah,
network. Yeah. You've
lifestyle thing.
also, you immigrated here from Belarus, I think you told me, right? So you have
That's correct.
something about, your perception of the world. I'm curious. I just want to know a little bit more about that and how you see things comparatively when it comes to the work ethic, being goal oriented, being target driven and target centered.
Sure, sure. I mean, a lot of us came here as immigrants. I think I was 7 8 years old when my family migrated here in 1991, and we had nothing pretty much, and we had some family that moved here about a year before us and kind of started helping us a little bit. But between my mom and dad, I've seen their work ethic where they had 5 jobs each, cleaning toilets, giving out flyers, and that really pushed me to see, to do what I'm doing now, and to be better, because they came here to give, you know, their kids a better lifestyle, a
Sure.
better living, because
Yep.
there was a lot of discrimination back in Belarus because of my heritage, because of my background, and they left great jobs to nothing to be able to give everything to their children, and that really hits home, right? And I try to give that to my kids. They'll never know that kind of hardship,
Right.
and they'll never do. I have 3 little ones,
Thank God.
uh,
Right. Yeah.
so God willing, that is what it is. But that work ethic always drives me to be better.
Right.
A lot of the immigrants today, in general, we weren't given anything. Everything earned.
You got to
In a
earn
sense.
it.
That's kind of the key
Yeah.
to be successful, in my opinion, is to earn what eat what you kill, brother.
Eat what you kill. That's exactly it. I live by that. I bring that up because it takes that outlook, that perspective on life generally to say that what, for you it may have come just from being coming from a different country and having that perception, but it does show in your ethic, right? Somebody who's able to pivot during the setback we're going to find ways for us to continue to hit our targets, meet our goals, help people pivot, shift, and serve, right? And that's really what I've been saying to people during this time since, we all got into lockdown. You got to find ways to pivot, to shift, and to serve. But, a lot of people have never faced something like this or similar to this before, where they had to be flexible in their thinking, where they had to adjust, right? So to know that, okay, I saw my parents work hard. I have a work ethic, right? And then you see, you didn't have to go, your children, you just said, never had to experience what you had to experience growing up. And there are probably parts of, your childhood that your parents looked at you and said, well, hopefully he doesn't experience what we experience. And that's what I think
Right.
we're dealing with today when it comes to business ownership and home ownership, qualifying for that mortgage, looking for opportunities during the setback. We need to be able to say, okay, how do we create partnerships with people who can get in alignment with our vision because they can relate to what our goals are going to be. So I think that it's realistic to say, yes, this is a setback for now, but we've had setbacks before. How do we adjust? How do we pivot? Right.
That's a
So,
great. I mean, that's a great. You bring up a great point. How do we pivot during the pandemic? We use the concept here at the law office of Yuriy Moshes to think outside the box in
think
general,
outside the
right?
box.
I
Yeah.
mean, the mortgage aspect of it, just so you understand, probably doubled or tripled in business during the pandemic because the rates are super low.
Really?
Those that are working are refinancing their mortgage rates. They're cashing out, buying inventory. They're using the cash out to either renovate the property or, as you have a lot of investors to invest into opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Businesses or properties.
Yeah.
So that's been thriving, for a lot of the mortgage bankers in general. But think outside the box in a sense where if you're a law firm and we're shut down for a while, starting to reopen as phase 2, phase 3 hits,
Right.
we, like I said, strategically working remotely and still doing our closings and still communicating with our clients, where a lot of attorneys kind of turtled in and shelled into their boxes, we continue to thrive, right?
Yeah.
But thinking outside the box, where we stood out is we increased the marketing,
Okay.
targeting, anticipating to thrive once we reopen, right? Because we're looking for other businesses to purchase, other law offices to use
Yeah.
buy their acquisition.
Right.
And
So
that's
you're
kind of
expanding.
kind of where it's different. Where like, wait, during the downtime, you're trying to buy another acquisition where
Right.
you're not making money right now.
Right.
Why would you do that?
Right.
And the idea was to come out with a bigger punch, right?
Love
So,
it.
it's something that's in the negotiation stages. I'm not gonna, it's a theory where you buy during the downtime,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And during the downtime as well, we're able to get on Zoom, get on any kind of social media, FaceTime, Facebook Live, whatever it is, and educate our referral partners.
Right.
Okay. A lot of brokers reached out to us and wanted to do different videos or,
Good.
do training with their agents to say, hey, what's going on with this world, the legal world, mortgage world? What is happening with deals? How do we
Yeah.
proceed forward?
Yeah.
And we were able to maneuver them and explain to them, hey, maybe you should move around your stagnant listings and, educate the brokers to turn their listings into potential temporary rentals
Yeah.
with an option to purchase.
Okay.
Again, is that outside the box thinking
Right.
that no matter what the market, um, bad or good, you got to adjust. And
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
adjustment is what is going to make you successful, right?
Yeah.
Change is inevitable.
It's
There's
inevitable.
always that cycle. There's always that time frame. I lived through the 2007 when the bubble bursted and it was disastrous. The foreclosure rates were huge.
Right.
People were getting 106% financing, 110% financing at times,
Right.
and people were underwater. And
Wow.
we overcame that obstacle we helped at the law office of Yuriy Moshes. Foreclosures was a big concept.
Yeah.
We were able to help clients get out of the foreclosure by doing some kind of restructuring of their loans, filing answers, defending against the foreclosure, which,
Yeah.
as you know, takes a long time to get to that level.
Sure.
And then strategically moving into retail transactions about 6, 7 years ago, into short-term negotiations. So anything real estate related, that's probably 90% of our business.
Yeah.
Buying, selling, refinance, bank attorney work. That's kind of where we stand out, doing what we do best in
Yeah.
communicating, following up, and of course responsiveness, as you know, is a key.
Outstanding. Okay, so from a business owner, himself, I just want to get into like maybe a little bit more about Yuriy Moshes in the law office, right? Inception, right, from startup to scale, right? And I'm asking you this because a lot of people do want to get started. They, some people are part-time into their side hustle. You've got people that are working multiple jobs. They're looking for odd jobs, way to survive right now. But if they could put all their, bet on themselves, right? They'll probably have a little bit more sense of certainty, right? Let's talk about how you guys got started up, how you guys identified your niche, right? Because your niche right now is, foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, anything along those lines, short sales, right, in the real estate market. So how was it starting out? What gave you the idea to start out and then identify that niche? Was there a need for it, or did you guys just like create that need?
So they're great questions. I mean, like I said, my background since 2003, 4 has been mortgage industry in the mortgage world. And when Yuriy Moshes got his license, we were friends prior to that. And Gennady is another attorney that we have here. We were doing a lot, got into like debt settlement world, and everybody's doing that debt settlement business, which
Okay.
turned into a bubble burst of
Okay.
real estate. And nobody was kind of like, what do I do? Do I get out of this business? Do I move into something else? Yuriy Moshes, being an attorney and had the experience of negotiations, we were able to combine forces and come together and say, listen, why don't we get into this foreclosure, which is a huge part of the current situation. A lot of people, lost their jobs, the market went down, they lost money, they lost equity in the property. How do we help people obtain, overcome this obstacle? And, foreclosure defense came about where we were able to go to court, fight for them, file different acquisitions, file different motions. My background in mortgages helped me do a modification as part of the foreclosure defense. As part of the transaction, we were able to save people's homes. Once you figure out what the banks want and the guidelines, then you could put a package together to the bank to help people, and
Right.
realistically help people.
Right.
I have a conversation. They say, look, I make $1,000 in income and I want to save my $1 million house, or that's upside down and it's worth 600,000.
Right.
What is the realistic payment that you can afford? There isn't any.
Right.
So short sale came about through that. And this is like early 2010, I would say.
Got it.
Into 11, 12, 13. And there was a lot of buyers out there that were looking to scoop up properties and purchase inventory.
Yeah.
And that's how Bed-Stuy, I think, grew from, 3-family going from 600,000 to $2.3 million, where it is now. Yeah, with
unbelievable
people who are in foreclosure and 3-4 years later, all of a sudden have equity in the property.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you're in foreclosure, remember, you don't have to do a short sale or a short payoff.
Right.
Foreclosure is something that is filed a lien against the property.
Right.
It's pendants against the property.
Right.
Technically, if you're 3 months behind on the mortgage,
It goes
you're
straight
in
in.
pre-foreclosure stage.
Yeah.
If you're not in foreclosure, people get frightened, they get scared, but just know you have options to stay in the house. Nobody's going to foreclose on you right away. In New York, it's a judicial state. It takes
3 years,
a couple of years, to even get to that part.
Right.
The oldest case I think we had was like 10 years old, 11 years old.
Okay.
When the person hasn't paid their mortgage.
All right. So I see that's key. I think we did 2 things right there. We talked about inception and we talked about identifying that niche. So you've been through a cycle similar to this before. It wasn't so much of a health crisis, it was more of a financial crisis, right?
Correct.
And you're able to help people recover from that financial crisis. So there's some things that are similar to that now that I think we're seeing, right? One of the things I think that a lot of people are wondering about is, you just touched on it a little bit, was like that loan modification. When should somebody, and you seem to have had a lot of success with this, when is it safe to say, okay, maybe somebody, the seller or the homeowner, should go in and apply for a loan mod? What's the criteria to qualify for that?
You know, today it's hard to say what is the criteria today. What it was, clear guidelines from Obama administration, you know, what a HAMP modification, a home affordable modification program was, and those clear guidelines. And the banks that got the bailout money had to participate in a lot of these programs. So you were kind of known, you know, anybody who's behind on their mortgage and they can't get caught up on their current payments, their option is to do a modification. Remember, modification, you don't need to pay anybody to do a modification. Something you could do on your own. If you know what you're doing, put in an application, call the bank, say, I'm having difficulty paying the mortgage. They'll send you out an application, you fill it out, send them the financials, and fill it out to the best of your ability. The problem is 95, 99% of the people could not fill out properly.
Okay.
They may have got lucky and got a modification,
right.
You know, based on the numbers. I could go into another 3-hour depth conversation about how what modification and debt to income ratios, but
right. Yeah.
So to answer your question, I guess, when is the right time? If you're behind and you can't get caught up on your late payments and on your back payments, you can't get caught up on it, because some people have good rates, right?
Yeah.
They had a modification, then they fell behind, they had a hardship, lost a job, you know, death, whatever the situation, divorce.
Right.
And then they fell behind 3 to 4 months, and they just can't pay that 3 to 4 months.
Right.
Now they want to apply for another modification. You know, if you have a 2% interest rate or 3% interest rate now, after the modification or after refinance,
right,
you say, oh, I want something better and cheaper. Well, keep in mind, you're not going to get anything better because the rates aren't as cheap as they could possibly be at that point.
Right.
So, you know, you're going to put the back payments on top of your loan.
Right.
The misconception is that modification is not the same as lower my payments.
Right.
Okay. People say, oh, but I was to get modified, my payment should be cheaper.
Yeah.
The payment should be affordable based on
affordable
income.
On your income.
Income, your you know, assistance of anybody that lives with you.
Right.
Your regular income. It's different than the modifications. Well, very different than refinance, and the guidelines totally different. But today, some banks will modify, and some banks do short sales, and other banks says, nope, we'd rather foreclose.
Yeah.
You know, we don't do modifications. We're not obligated to do modifications. We don't need to do modifications.
Yeah.
You know, so your first thing as a homeowner, call the bank. Say, hey, how much do I owe
Call
you?
the bank, right? At least call the bank. Have the conversation with the bank. Yeah, that's the first step. Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Call the bank. Hey, you know, I'm having a difficult time. What can you, you know, recommend for me to do at this point?
Yeah.
And they'll tell you the options. Look, we don't do modifications, bottom line.
Yeah.
Or they'll tell you, you know, we can send you out a package and just fill it out and see what you can do.
Right.
You know, that was just do it, you know, work with the bank. Because if you're working with a bank, less chances of them filing a list pendants against you, because it costs them money to foreclose against clients.
Yeah, for sure.
In the meantime,
they don't want to lose you. They want to keep you.
Yeah, listen, they're not in the business of sales. They're in the business of collecting.
They want to upsell you. Right? So here's another question for you, because you touched on it a little bit. You said the people are not filling out the applications, right? So my question to you is, now I've noticed this myself, like in areas like Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, right? People have applied for the loan mods, but the approvals of the applications are so low. And I talked to a couple of banks, and I hear different things. So I want to get your perspective on this, right? Some people say that you know, it's an income question. The income did not change to reflect that there should be a modification. That's one. And another one is there's probably more than one person on the deed. So that's another issue that I come across. Does that play a part? Number one, how much of a part does income change? How much does it have to change for them to approve, to get, you know, approved for the modification? And number two, does it matter that there's a second deed holder on it? Does that affect their approval?
I mean, great questions. You know, these are what we call red flags. Okay. There's a lot of red flags. You know, there's two people that start with the deed transactions. If there's two people on the deed and it's a divorce case, for instance, the bank's going to want to ask for both financials. And then two people on the deed and two people on the mortgage, they're going to want to ask for both financials. Now, if they're divorced, you show a divorce decree or a letter of explanation that this person no longer lives there. They will not require the financials of that person, but
Yeah.
they may require them to sign the modification documents. And you need
Right.
to have them on board.
Okay.
If they're MIA, if they're no longer in the picture, that can be a problem to do a modification. You may not be able to do a modification.
Yep.
The other question was the income.
Yeah.
Well, income is a huge part of, can you afford a mortgage payment, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if your mortgage payment, let's just say $5,000 a month with tax and insurance, and you're grossing $10,000 a month, you're at 50% debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So what the banks usually do is they'll drop you down to 31% debt to income ratio, giving
Okay.
you a new mortgage payment of $3,100 a month.
Got that. Can we
Now,
reemphasize
that was
that?
the HIT
Because that's the
modification.
part where people get stuck. Can we just reemphasize
Yeah.
that part, the 50% debt to income ratio?
So if you have a mortgage payment currently of over, let's say, 40%, meaning your mortgage payment, tax, and insurance divided by your gross income is over 40%, potentially you can lower it between 31 to 38% that, payment wise.
Okay.
What interest rate? It all varies
Whatever
depending on the
market
loan
says.
amount,
Yeah.
depending on, escrow, tax, and insurance. It's going to vary around. Okay. The one thing we know for sure is that they're not going to give you a 0% interest rate. So
Right.
if your taxes are $3,000 on its own, you can't
Right.
qualify for anything. You need to show a higher income.
Sure.
At that point, you might want to show rental income, maybe bring a co-signer or somebody that's maybe lives with you, but not on the mortgage, not on the deed, and they can potentially show that they're contributing towards your income. Okay.
Got
That's
it.
one way to
Okay.
kind of help yourself out. If you're self-employed borrowers, they ask you for profit and loss, so you have to show your deposits.
For what? For 2 years or so? The P&L for 2 years?
It's last 3 months. Usually, they ask for profit and loss for the last 3 months. It doesn't matter what you filed, Uncle Sam, 2 years ago or last year, because obviously self-employed borrowers do not file what they show a lot of times.
Right. Yeah, we know that.
But nevertheless, you can make it work. Income is a big crucial part of it, and a lot of banks will deny. First time around, they'll deny your mortgage because either you make too much money, or you don't make enough money, and nobody understands that kind of like you need to be right
line. Yeah.
in that between that line, and I could have a whole conversation about that.
Yeah.
Where you need to be to show not too much income, not too little income,
Right.
but just enough to qualify, basically. And then still they'll say, oh, you can make income, you can make your mortgage payments.
So,
yeah, well, I had income, I lost my income,
right,
and I have new income. That's
right.
probably maybe more.
Right.
But the hardship letter is really what you need to make sure you write well.
Okay.
The hardship letter is what's going to qualify you based, not really, one of the qualifications for short sale or for modification is that I had a hardship, and a legitimate hardship, not just because somebody told me to stop paying my mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you get a modification, but a legitimate hardship can assist you.
Yeah.
And get you a modification.
Okay.
Yes, it's very difficult. Sometimes you have to submit the modifications a few times.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't work, where you have to get an attorney and litigate the foreclosure part of it.
It's such a long process.
It is
such a long process. Yeah.
You go to conference, the attorneys go to conference, they bring the modification package and they say, well, what do you mean you don't qualify? Show me where I don't qualify.
Yeah, sure.
And the judge will say, well, try to offer them something, let's negotiate, let's settle. The only real settlement is a modification or a short sale.
Yeah.
Unless you want to get caught up on your payments and, there's other options to, do a repayment plan on a forbearance of some sort.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy is always a last resort.
Yeah, let's get back just a little bit because you said there's that fine line, right, where you might make not enough or you might make too much. So somebody makes too much, right, which is the goal. Hopefully, we make more money every year, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Is it a better idea to refi? Can people go ahead and refi? Is that an option?
Most banks no, right? Because once you're behind on your mortgage payment, that means your credit score has dropped below the threshold of allowed guidelines.
Right.
And then most lenders, FHA, Fannie, Freddie, allow you 0 to 12 months latenesses.
Okay. Can I just interrupt you right there because there's an additional variable. There's that person that might be on the deed that has a better credit score. So then would that be an option to help them? I'm asking these
Definitely,
questions
of
because
course.
these are questions get asked
Yeah.
to me
Oh, sure.
and I don't know how to answer them. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, let's
I
really
mean,
try to
look,
get
me
through
and you
this.
could be on the deed. I'm on the mortgage. I haven't paid my mortgage. We haven't paid the mortgage payment, so my credit score is terrible. Your credit score is great, and you have great income, and you're on the deed, but you're not on the mortgage.
Uh-huh.
Can you refinance? The answer is no, because they're still going to ask for the mortgage history,
There it
which
is.
is going to show that you're late on the mortgage,
Got it.
and that disqualifies you. Now, there are
Got it.
banks that, as long as you're one day out of bankruptcy, or or if you're in default up to X amount of months,
Got
they
it.
can potentially refinance you at
Yeah.
a much higher rate, or there's some private banks that may be able to do something. So I don't want to make a general statement saying
Got it.
no.
It varies.
It varies. I mean, if you have a foreclosure and it's a commercial property, for instance,
Yeah.
and you haven't paid the mortgage, or your mortgage has been already ballooned where you have to make the full payment,
Yeah.
and you're technically in foreclosure, you could refinance out of that into another hard money or soft money lender,
Yeah.
okay, which is a higher
Okay.
interest
Higher
rates.
rates. Yeah.
Usually on the LLC name or on the corporation's names.
Right.
So that's an option, but unfortunately, at a higher rate, it doesn't really help you. It's just a band-aid.
Got it.
If you're about to lose your property tomorrow to a foreclosure, bankruptcy is another option.
Got
You
it.
should speak to a bankruptcy attorney. I don't want to give any legal advice, of course, as I'm not an attorney.
Right.
But speak to a bankruptcy and maybe restructure into a Chapter 13.
Got it.
You can restructure your payments to be more affordable and get a modification through bankruptcy potentially.
That's not going to hinder their credit score, filing for Chapter 13?
Well, your credit score is already shot based on the
Right. Yeah.
bankruptcy.
Not going to make it any worse. Just go ahead and
Usually,
do it.
I mean, there's banks out there that 2 years or 4 years after modification and bankruptcies, you can apply and get a refinance or buy a new house. If you
Got
do a
it.
short sale, after
right.
4 years, you
After
could
4
buy a
years.
new house.
Yeah.
If you do a bankruptcy, usually 7 years of Chapter 7, Chapter 13 is 4 years. You could buy a new house or refinance.
Yeah.
It's a restart button, really.
Okay. So there's hope, man. There's hope. I hope people are understanding that there's always options, right? Because when you're sitting in front of somebody who's going through this right now, and it's not just the home, right? It's the family, it's the kids, it's the fiance, whoever. It's all the parties involved, and then it's like the virus, and there's so much going on, and it's like there's no hope. It's kind of like you just dig yourself deeper and deeper into this rut. So what you're saying is that not only is there hope, there are ways, there are options for us to navigate this thing to save it, right? And for us to be able to liquidate it somehow or another, yeah?
Yeah, listen, people are very emotional. When I used to sit down with foreclosure clients, they were embarrassed.
Yeah.
They were emotional.
Right.
The husband didn't want to tell the wife didn't want to tell the husband.
Right.
There's a lot of divorce cases because of that.
Right.
A lot of disputes with family and a lot of angry, you use my credit type of situations.
Right, yeah.
But we were able to calm them down and speak to them. And, when I'm speaking to clients, I'm very calm about it because I do this every day, all day long, foreclosures, any real estate transaction, buying and selling. I could explain the whole process from A to Z.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing at the same time, but
overwhelming,
educational, and they feel better knowing the process and what the next step is.
Yeah.
I think it's that worrying of, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
Get very kind of closed in, and they don't want to call the bank. They don't want to let people know what's happening with them.
Right.
And it only hurts themselves.
Okay.
And especially with the pandemic now. And I mean, keep in mind right now, foreclosures on hold. So if you had a foreclosure auction sale date 2-3 months ago, it's on hold for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually they're going to open up the courts, and the courts will be backlogged, but they will start the foreclosure process again. So if anybody's in foreclosure out there, I say give a ring, find out what your options are, and there's always options. To see how you could either save your property, save your home, or how you can get rid of this debt once and for all. Because sometimes people just abandon their properties thinking that, I got served with a letter of foreclosure, and then you just walk away.
Yeah, it's not over yet. It's just like
that property's been sitting there for the last 5 years.
Right. Yeah, you could have done something with it. What's funny is I used to go down to 360 Adams, and I used to go to the auctions. I used to go to the foreclosure auctions. I think that's how I started to get my feet wet, right? I loved it, man. Like I would just go and I would just give my business card out to the investors. And, back then it was crazy because it's a live auction and you just see them all check in hand, ready to go ahead and, purchase the properties right there. So let's segue into the buyers, man. A lot of people are under the impression that, the best time to purchase is during a downturn, right? Which has been proven true. after '08, right? People were waiting. And I think, there's going to be, the market goes down. There's a downturn like every 10 to 12 years. There's a cycle or something like that. Now,
There's a cycle, right?
I've only been around. This is my second one, right? But I'm still not, as savvy on that side. So I think that's where you come in, right? Let's talk to the buyers right now, like a little bit of the investors. What
Sure.
is a wise, we're looking at holds, right?
Mhm.
What's a good, I think, for somebody who's starting out brand new, who's not experienced, somebody who's green, somebody who might have limited job security right now, looking to retire, right?
Mhm.
What do you think is a good amount of money to get started? And what size property should they be looking at
I
as a good
mean, look,
investor
someone who's
right now?
green, somebody who's doesn't have too much money or looking to retire. I mean, real estate is always the best option to purchase, right? I mean, a
Right.
lot of people do the mutual funds and stocks, and I have no idea and don't want to give you any advice on that.
REITs and all that. Yeah.
But somebody could, for the first time buyers could buy as little as 3%, to live in the property, maybe a multifamily where
Yeah.
they could rent out the second, third floor,
Like a FHA on like a 2-3.
yeah, like a 2-3 family house, buy a multifamily, with the FHA or conventional mortgages. You could use as little as 3.5% down payment. You can have a concession for the closing costs, guys,
Okay.
because the rates are so cheap.
Right.
You might as well leverage against it,
What
right?
about the principal and the interest, though? Aren't they really high on the FHAs versus a conventional?
No, I mean the idea, the only difference really is the PMI, is the
Uh-huh.
mortgage insurance that you're gonna have to pay between FHA and conventional. Conventional, you can also pay mortgage insurance, but it's a little bit cheaper than FHA, and it can
Okay.
go away after several years.
Got it.
But nevertheless, it's all about affordability. If your rental can cover your mortgage payments, it's always a good investment.
Right.
If you're looking to buy and flip, that's a different story, right?
Right.
If
No.
you're
Yeah.
green, you should probably partner up with somebody or get somebody like you to give you advice
Yeah.
as to what to buy, where at what point to buy it, and what point to resell it, right? Because your
Right.
after repair value has to be a certain percentage
Yeah.
as an investor. So
Right.
learning those techniques, and then you could use hard money. Today
Yeah.
hard money is 9 to 12% interest rate,
Not too bad.
12, 12
Right.
months holding and flipping, and you're making 15-20% profit margins. Depends if you know what you're doing. There's a lot of REOs out there, which stands for real estate owned by the bank already.
Right.
You could get into short sales, and that takes time, and that's good for somebody who's new, kind of learn the process.
Right.
Um, you know, but owning real estate in general right now with the interest rates the way they are,
Yeah.
it's a smart choice. No
So
matter what you buy today with an interest rate I mean, we're talking about under 3%,
under
30-year
3.
fixed. I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
Yeah. So starting out, would you say that and you got a lot of people who are, they're scared money, you know what I mean? And they
Spend money don't make money, my friend.
my man, right? He's speaking my language. But it's risky because this is like, it's uncharted territory for a lot of people. So you're saying start out with like a 2-3, right? Maybe do a FHA, but then you're talking about also rehab. Now rehab is a little bit tricky for somebody who, maybe is not a contractor, doesn't know any contractors. They some options are there. I think TD Bank for a while was doing a lot of rehab loans where they were tying it in to the mortgage. What do you advise about that as far as like a 203K if somebody's gonna be an owner occupant versus taking out a rehab loan? What do you advise?
I mean, look, end of the day, 2 or 3K is meant for somebody who's going to live in the property, renovate the property. They give you some money. Those are more expensive loans. TD Bank or other banks, I'm sure there's a bunch of bankers that can give you 2 or 3K loans. But again, that's really for yourself. Rehab is really, I would say, if you don't know what you're doing and you have the financing,
Yeah.
partner or somebody who does know what they're doing can find you the inventory
Yeah.
and, get a partnership together where you could start, purchasing and flipping properties if
So
that's
like a
what you're looking
syndicate?
to do. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
To build wealth, that's one way of doing it, right?
Right.
You buy low at the market today and you sell high, right? And that's the
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. So
Two or
flips.
3K loans are really meant for yourself.
Yeah.
It's a long-term thing, right? So you renovate for yourself, and then you might potentially may want to sell it a couple of years down the road,
Right.
or continue collecting the rental income. So it really
Yeah.
depends, again, what you can afford to, if you can get a mortgage, if you have the cash flow, you can buy it cash. You don't need to get a mortgage, right? We're talking about mortgages, but we don't need to have a mortgage.
Right.
We have many in Yuriy Moshes' law office where buyers buying cash. Cash is king a lot of times.
Gotcha.
They may still leverage it to get a
Yeah.
mortgage, but
More people
they,
leverage. Yeah.
they're going in on cash purchases, or even better, they may be selling something and buying something else, which is called a 1031 exchange, and,
Yeah.
and deferring the capital gains. That's
Yeah.
another
Yeah,
option.
let's get into that right there. That was my next question, right? Because so now you have a homeowner who's, what they're saying right now is a good time to put their property on the market. They want to leave New York. They want to go somewhere like Florida. They want to go, somewhere where they get more square footage. And they don't want to pay that capital gains. Now, they want to probably get like you just said, a 2 or 3 family somewhere in a neighborhood where they can get good rents, right? How would they go about doing the 1031? Because now you tie into, are they still going to do an FHA because they're not going to live there anymore, so they're probably not going to do the FHA. They're not going to be an owner occupant. So how do they work that angle now?
If you own or occupy the property, live in the property, and it is capital gains of over 250 a single and over 500,000 as individual, then you don't have to worry about capital gains too much, right? If you're married, it's over up to half $500,000 exempt for capital gains if you live in the property for at least 2 years. And these questions are really meant for an accountant to find out, because there's depreciation that goes into the factors. But if you own the property for many, many years and it's an investment property and you're looking to defer millions of dollars, taxes, property taxes, capital gains on the property, there's a 1031 exchange where it's a vehicle to avoid IRS paying the capital gains, and you can purchase something equal to the value or greater. It could be a commercial, residential, or different multiple
Right.
things. But remember, the key thing is got to be investment to an investment. If you sell from LLC, you got to buy the LLC, a personal name to a personal name.
Right.
What you're doing is you're deferring the capital gains. Eventually, your kids, your grandchildren, whoever takes over the property in the future, or if you decide to sell it again and again, one way or another, you will pay the capital gains eventually.
Right.
But in the meantime, you're just avoiding or deferring rather
Like
the
2
capital
years or
gains.
something, right?
Right. So we have a lot of buyers right now at the law office of Yuriy Moshes who are selling, let's say, a 3-family in Brooklyn. Actually, just had a call right before this podcast, and they're looking to buy something upstate, equal or greater value,
Right.
like a shopping center, for instance, and they're looking to defer the payments right now. So the 1031 exchange is a great vehicle to defer capital gains. Okay, but the more the better you can educate yourself to become a savvy investor.
Right.
If it's a flips, just know your bottom line, know what you're looking to obtain, educate yourself in the process.
Yes.
Downtime or uptown, listen, you just gotta be ready to go with the flow, kind of thing.
Right. So you got a lot of people right now because of COVID and everything going on. They don't want to be in the city. Some, families are getting bigger, right? You got people that are thinking about relocating to other states. So the market does seem like it's opening up a bit. What do you think is, I guess, a good place for people to, I'm in, say, Crown Heights. I'm in Bed-Stuy. I'm in Bushwick. I'm in Ocean Hill. I'm looking at Park Slope, South Slope, Sunset. Those are areas where people, there's 2, 3, maybe even 4 family investment opportunities available, right? Would you say it's a good idea for people to invest in those areas right now, or maybe go into bigger properties like mixed use properties because they'll probably pay a higher yield a little bit later over like a 5 to 7
I'm a
year
big fan
period?
of mixed use. I'm a big fan of commercial cap rates and diversifying your portfolio. I think commercial right now is people are working remotely, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity to buy commercial property within the next 6 months to a year, where you could get a nice sweet deal. And
Yeah.
if you were to buy commercial property, my recommendation is a mixed use. Maybe put your business on the bottom and have the residential on the top. That's what a mixed use is. It's a mixture of residential and commercial,
Yeah.
50 or 60-40, whatever it is,
Right.
because people need to place to live, but not necessarily do they need a place
to
of
work.
business to work out of
Right.
anymore.
Right.
A lot of I see vacancies all over Flatbush and Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights.
Yeah.
So there's going to be opportunities there to purchase. And my thing is always, whatever you purchase in real estate, it's always a great idea to buy real estate. 5 years down the road, as long as you bought something and you hold on to it and you're paying the mortgage,
Yeah.
it's going to make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
You're going to cash out a ton of equity. In 10 years from now, if you could hold on to the property, you're a genius. You're going to make a ton of money in the real estate game, right? No matter what kind of real estate you purchase today, if you overpaid for it or underpaid for it, you know, there's always that, I guess, appreciation of properties that's growing. And New York, even during the 2008 era, Brooklyn wasn't hit as hard as other states were.
Right.
You know, yeah, it didn't go and appreciate as much, but really we were at a peak of a bubble where prices were really, inflated
Yeah.
in New York, and now they kind of calmed down. So it depends on the market, depends if you're buying in Bed-Stuy or Crown Heights.
Right.
You know, as long as you could afford it and it makes sense, with the rates the way they are today, it's free money in my opinion. So I say buy.
Well, I say, look, and two, if you're coming from Park Slope where you got a brownstone there for like $4 million, and then you can get like a mixed use for like 1.2. I mean, you know what I mean?
Listen, I mean,
help you out more over the period of time that we're going to be going through possibly another, setback. Which one is a better investment? You know what I mean? That's what a lot of the conversations I'm having right now.
I keep in mind, look, even Bed-Stuy, I have a buddy of mine who bought a 2-family house in 2013, and it was like, wow, you're nuts, bro, spending $1.2 million on a Bed-Stuy 2-family house, which is worth now like almost $1.8, $2 million. You know, so people think, oh, it's too much money, or it's, you're spending, you're not utilizing your funds properly. But then, do it 5 years down the road, you're a genius.
Right.
You know, buying in South Brooklyn right now, some of these condos are going for $700, $800, $900 per square foot.
Yeah.
You know, with a lot of these new construction developments, and they're sold out. People
Yeah.
But listen, you always got to be cautious and be careful. You know, don't over leverage yourself, in my opinion.
Right.
Don't spend. Depends on your income. Put your money into good use. I always say that.
Got it. Okay, so let's get to your bottom line, right? Because you've been through a couple of cycles, you've gotten through a few downturns, right? There's got to be a reoccurring truth for you, something that serves as an anchor for you that keeps you on target, keeps you on track, and helps you to push forward. What is your bottom line?
I mean, look, you can't just sit back and let the dust settle, right? You got to always be on your tip of toes. My thing is always change is inevitable, right? So it's gonna happen. I've seen different roads done during the course of my career, and you have to be able to adjust. Whatever the situation is, you have to adjust your lifestyle. If it's if somebody wants to have a diet and they want to lose weight, diets don't work. Lifestyle change, right?
Lifestyle
so you change what you eat, how you eat. You cut out this, cut out the carbs, cut out the dairy. It's a change, right? So you have to be comfortable in your own zone. So no matter where the market swings, you just gotta adjust with the market, I feel like.
Right.
And that is what's gonna make you successful, and that's what's gonna make you thrive. If you just stuck in your old ways and you don't want to change, unfortunately, I don't see that.
Yeah, that's insanity.
Model working, but everybody that's been in the cycle and will tell you the same thing, years of experience, that you have to be able to adjust to the market. You may not be able to foresee it. If you do, great, and you can adjust earlier. But now with Zoom, right?
Yeah.
All these different social medias, you could definitely make a change to whatever you're doing to make sure that you thrive to be successful.
There it is. That's the bottom line. So where do people find you, Igor?
Well, I mean, easily obtained on Facebook and Igor Lipkin, or you can find me at the law office of Yuriy Moshes. You can always Google my name and you can pop up. My cell phone number should pop up there. But feel free to text, message me anytime. If you have any questions about foreclosures, real estate transactions in general, if you have any mortgage needs, helps, whatnot, we always have referral partners, even if we don't specialize in specific law. That Yuriy Moshes, let's say, is a real estate attorney. We have an attorney who handles employment law as well. But let's say if there's a part of the law that we don't specialize in or don't perform, we could always refer you to a broker or a mortgage guy or whoever, a loan mower, psychiatrist, doctor.
We got something for everybody. Yeah.
We have everybody, a bike rider.
Yeah. Nice. Love it. All right. This was the bottom line. Listen, Igor, it was a lot of fun just learning from you today. because there were a lot of questions. And I always say, listen, if I don't know the answers, I'm definitely going to find out. Right. So it was definitely, for sure. It was definitely fun learning
Thanks
from
for having
you.
me. I really appreciate your time as well today. This is a great podcast. Look forward to doing another one with you in the near
Yes, sir.
future.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
maybe a little bit after the pandemic is over and whatnot,
Yeah.
and kind of see where we were then, now, and in the future.
Yeah, with some good news, right? This is
All right.
This is the bottom line with Igor Lipkin of Yuriy Moshes Law Office.
Thanks, guys.
Where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line.